amp hour battery at a 20-hour rate. Okay? And it is a 6-volt 12-car battery, which is 225 times 6. Works out to, it's a lot of watt hours. I don't know, what's the math? 1350. Okay, so 1350 watt hours. Okay? This is how many watts you have to spend in one battery. 1350 watt hours. It means you can run, again, an appliance that uses 1350 watts, a window unit, a window AC unit uses 1300 watts. On that one battery, you can run that window unit at that power capacity for 1 hour. And it's done, 0%. Okay? So that's one small battery, all right? But when you're figuring how big and how many batteries you want, you're gonna compensate for that 50% discharge rate, okay? So this gets cut in half, divided by 2. So now you've only got 675. 600, I can't write sideways. 675 watt hours, all right? That's the real power that you have to fool with because you're not trying to kill your batteries, they're expensive, okay? So when you're building your system, don't forget to divide by 2 for the battery because you don't want to go below 50%. You can, but you're going to kill the cycle count, right? Okay. Of course, there are bigger batteries, so don't let us intimidate. This battery, I think, is $160. Just to give you a ballpark. Trojan also makes a better battery that's 410 amp hours, which is almost double for like 340, which is twice. So you get a bigger battery with twice the power, but it's only in one battery instead of 2. That's actually preferable because the less cells you have, each battery has a certain number of cells. They're 2-volt cells. So if you got a 6-volt battery, it's got 3 2-volt cells in it. The less cells you have in your battery bank charging, the less room for one of them drying out or one of them overcharging or burning up, the less room there is for error. So the bigger battery you can afford, for capacity range, the better. The less batteries in your bank, the better, as far as charging is concerned. Okay? Question?
Can you buy volume and get a discount? Like if we all chipped in, can you buy volume
Oh, I
discount
would hope so. I would hope so. I haven't
That's
asked
what we do,
them.
we buy
I
volume.
haven't asked them about buying 100 batteries, so I couldn't tell you. I would hope so. Is there a question over here? All right. Charge controller. All right, battery life. I told you battery life. What else do you need to know? Inverter. That's the last component. All right, so you got your solar panels, you got your batteries, you got your charge controller, and your inverter is what takes the power from the batteries and turns it back into AC voltage or plug-in voltage. That's what I call it. You plug it in. That's what my wife calls it. Plug-in voltage. It takes it from 12 volts, which is what your battery bank will most likely consist of for a small system, and turns it into 115, which is the standard household outlet. It ranges from 110 to 120, but 115 is the standard for just about 95% of the appliances, whereas 230 is what you'd use for your stove or your clothes dryer. Most inverters output at 115 AC. Okay, that's what the inverter does. It takes 12 volts DC and makes it 115 AC. And it usually has little plugs on it, varies on the size of it. Usually 2 or 3 for a 3,000 watt or so inverter. Your inverter, just like all the other components, needs to be sized according to what you're going to plug into it. I have a list that I ran out of paper and couldn't print that has the average wattage of the average appliance. Just to give you a ballpark, when I set out to build a home solar system, I wanted to run an ice maker or a small refrigerator, maybe even a college fridge. I wanted to run my cordless charging stuff, the regular batteries to charge smaller batteries, and it added up to about 2,500 watts. That's what I was shooting. The refrigerator, a small, and I do stress small, 16 cubic foot refrigerator, about as small as you can get at Lowe's that actually has a freezer and a shelves and, a refrigerator, uses about 1,400 watts a day, okay? So if you wanna run your refrigerator, you need an inverter, a battery bank, a solar panel that will give you 1,400 watts a day, which isn't that bad, that's very doable. The system that I built, and this is what I recommend, and again, I'm not selling you anything, so this is just what I found for price, quality, made in the USA if I could get it. There's actually not very many companies that make a lot of US solar stuff, panels, inverters, it's all made in China. Most of it is made in China. It's difficult to find.
So we spent that 500 million on some.
They make a lot of solar junk, and the bad thing about solar equipment is that most of the time the components are built separately, so you'll get, the frame is made in Taiwan, and the cells are made, the individual cells in the panel are made in China. The wiring and the inverters are made in Canada, so it's difficult to find one that's made in the USA. Most of them are assembled here and components from there, but I did my best, and in my setup, I'm using Sharp or Grape solar panels. Those are the company names. Sharp is a Japanese-owned company, but they have plants that make panels here. They also have a very good warranty panel. I believe 230, 240 watts. They have everything, but the one I was looking at was 230, 240 watts for about $450. All this is in my report, by the way, the cost, because I know I'm a bottom line, give me the number guy. And like I said, I was shooting for something that could give me between 18 and 2,500 watts for under $1,500. If you go through the Northern Tool catalog and you look at their pre-built boxes, you don't get anywhere near that. They tell you, now that you know some of the vocabulary, you know the kind of questions that you need to ask while you're shopping. When you look at one of these pre-built systems, you need to know those battery capacities. It's all about the battery capacity, especially if you get one of these little cart around, it's got a little tiny panel on the top of it and a little attachment solar panel on the side. They're supposed to be 1,800 watts, but you get, that's 1,800 watts total and it's done. That's an hour of window unit. So you're not gonna get a whole lot out of those little Northern packages, and those things are, $1,200 by themselves for an hour of window unit. So I wanted a little more than that. Question.
What is the shelf life of a solar panel?
Most of them, the good ones, are warranted to about 25 years with 80% efficiency. That means whatever you see the number that it's sold at, 240 watts, you're gonna get at least 80% of that in full sun for 25 years.
What about the inverters and the batteries?
Those are all a little less. The panels are actually the least complicated. There's no moving parts. They're an output only. They don't deal with converting or any of that, so they last the longest. Panels last the longest. And then all the other ones, they all have warranties, but again, you have to read because there's no standard. Okay.
Travis, I know you've thought about this, so the reason why we look at this stuff, one reason, say if the government breaks down and we have chaos, or we have an electromagnetic pulse, bomb set off, everything gets fried like that.
Including
What
solar
is it that you want to do so you can protect that stuff?
Solar stuff's gone too.
Protect it. What is it that you want to be able to operate at your home?
Well, for me, this is my simplicity showing. I wanted my refrigerator. I got to be able to have the food in there. And that was baseline because they're even high-end PV solar homes. They don't use AC and heat some. They don't use you don't cool and heat with your solar panels and batteries. It's too much energy. Your clothes dryer uses 4,000 watts an hour. Okay, so you don't plug. Yeah, get a clothesline. Don't plug your clothes dryer into your batteries. It should suck them dry in a heartbeat. Your toaster oven uses 1,500 watts. Your microwave, they make smaller ones, so you're getting where maybe I get 1,000 watts an hour, and you're not running it for an hour. You're running it for 2 minutes to
So
super
the
boil
main thing
oil.
we should focus on is something for cooling, for like our food, for food.
Yeah, bare necessities. If lighting is very expensive electrically, unless you're using LEDs or CFLs. David likes LEDs. I know he wants to say it.
I like LEDs.
They ain't worried about the lighting as long as the
David's
sun
on
shines.
LSD, is that what you said?
I wanted to say something about inverters.
You got to cancel it, so we can go back.
There's two kinds of inverters. There's regular sine wave and pure
Yes.
sine wave. And the pure sine wave is what you need for your computer, your TV and all that. Because if you use the box sine waves that runs motors and stuff, you get squigglies all over your TV.
I've not plugged in a TV to a modified. Most of the inverters now, they're not gonna have sine wave and pure sine wave. They're gonna call them modified sine wave. I'm not really sure what that means. I'm not an electrician, but I know that they do, well, David can tell you another day. They do something with, it's basically about the frequency of the current and how consistent it is. Medical equipment and stuff that's really finely calibrated, has pure sine wave. Computers actually have their own conversion boxes inside, so yes and no. It depends how your monitor is wired, and I couldn't get into all that. But the kind of inverter that you're gonna find that you can afford, a modified sine wave inverter that runs off of batteries, that you're only gonna pay, and the one I've got in my basic setup is gonna be a modified sine wave, not a pure sine wave. So look into that. I have links on my printout that I'll again email you if you want. Look into that about different inverters, and you choose, because I'm not going to tell you what quality you need. You have to decide that for yourself. So questions?
Medical equipment.